I met my future wife, Isabella, at the age of 19. It was my first serious relationship, which lasted a full 10 years. During those 10 years, we faced many obstacles that tested the strength of our bond, from disapproval and rejection from friends and parents, to constantly looking for jobs, university, and mortgages. We faced challenges that tested us both. I vividly remember months when we were barely making ends meet, cutting back on everything, even the essentials, just to pay the bills. There were nights when we stayed up late, comforting each other after another rejection letter, or heated arguments with disapproving family members. Through it all, we grew together, our bond forged in the fire of shared struggle. Despite all of this, our love remained steadfast, though not without its challenges. Isabella had a fiery temper, and while her passion was one of the things I initially admired, it often became difficult to handle. I remember one time when we were planning a vacation, she exploded over a minor detail of our itinerary, turning what should have been a fascinating discussion into a tense argument that lasted for hours. Another time, a simple disagreement over where to dine turned into a heated confrontation in front of our friends, making everyone uncomfortable. Although these moments didn't happen often, I was exhausted and didn't know how to deal with her strong emotions. Last weekend was a perfect example. I had planned to visit a bathhouse with my friends, which was our tradition. When I told Isabella about it, she reacted harshly, unleashing a cascade of complaints and criticism on me. "This is nuts," she said occasionally, scanning the crowd for a possible cause. She was hypervigilant, unleashing a cascade of complaints and criticism on me. After a long discussion, however, we came to an agreement. She would spend the evening with her friends at the cafe, and I would be alone with beer, soccer, and steam with my long-married buddies. The evening began peacefully. We settled in, cheering on our favorite teams, laughing and enjoying the camaraderie that is inherent in such sit-downs. But an hour into the evening, my phone rang. It was Isabella. Her voice, harsh and accusing, peppered me with questions. "Where are you? Who are you with? Are you sure there are no women there?" she demanded. I sensed a note of fear in her tone, perhaps rooted in her own insecurities or past experiences. Isabella's need for constant reassurance often stemmed from a place of vulnerability, though her behavior was far from gentle. This combination of anxiety and confrontation reflected her internal struggle, which she rarely expressed directly but often projected onto me. Despite having answered these same questions countless times before, I maintained my composure. I calmly put her at ease as I answered each question, and at the end of the conversation, I promised to contact her later. Disappointed, but determined to enjoy the evening, I disconnected my phone. For one night I decided I deserved peace without the constant shadow of her distrust. As the evening drew to a close, I stepped out into the pleasant night air and looked at my watch. It was past midnight. No doubt, I thought to myself, Isabella will be waiting, ready to rain down a barrage of accusations on me. When I got home, however, the apartment was eerily quiet. Isabella wasn't there. That was unusual. She rarely stayed out late with friends. Puzzled, I turned my phone back on. I was met with a barrage of accusatory messages. "I don't believe you're only with friends. Are you with your women?" In desperation, I tried to call her, but her phone was off. Her endless jealousy and mistrust were weighing on me, and I felt a growing fatigue. Deciding to see if she was staying with her close friend Bianca, I went to her house. When I knocked on Bianca's door, she opened, a look of mild surprise on her face. "Good evening," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Is Isabella here?" Bianca shook her head. "No, she's not. She's gone to her mother's," she replied, her voice calm but tinged with concern. The thought of having to face both Isabella and my mother-in-law filled me with dread. While I waited for a cab in the bitter winter cold, Bianca invited me into the house. "You'll freeze in here," she said. Gratefully, I entered her warm apartment. She offered me tea and we sat down in the cozy living room. As we chatted, the weight of the years I'd lived with Isabella, her constant suspicions, accusations, outbursts of anger came to the surface. "You know," I said, a heavy note of restraint in my voice, "maybe I should let myself be free for once." Bianca's eyes whitened in surprise. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Independently, not fully considering the situation, I pulled myself closer to her. My gaze met hers, and for a moment everything seemed to freeze. "Please," I murmured, my voice low and rough. She hesitated, shaking her head slightly. but I gently tilted her chin up and ran my fingers over her skin. I hugged her, that soft and hesitant gesture that quickly deepened as she melted into my warm lips. In that moment, years of frustration and unmet needs seemed to dissolve. I carried her to her room, and every step seemed both surreal and inevitable. The night passed with a tenderness I hadn't felt in years, an experience that gave me joy and hope for the future. My work was finished, and dinner time was at hand, so we both left the house and headed for the restaurant. When morning came, I returned home. The apartment was still empty. Isabella had not returned. The silence seemed deafening. I resolutely packed a bag with the essentials. I couldn't do this anymore. On the kitchen table, I left a note, terse but definitive. "We're getting a divorce.